as days passes by, and most long for a place that they never find. I'm afraid I wake up when I die, and it is too late to climb any mountain. Time is of the essence, the blood running through our core. It's best to not feel sorry when it's over. I will be the greatest that you've ever seen before, and I'll stay eternal. Run out when things don't go to plan. I kinda lose my mind. I hope it's real, this life comes around. Just keep your faith and search for the fountain. Time is of the essence, the blood running through our core. It's best to not feel sorry when it's over. Will be the greatest that you've ever seen before, and I'll stay eternal.
Over the edge, feel like I'm floating through the air. The pain I felt is paid for, all is said and done. Oh, I am restricted, fixed upon the web. I need to kick the habit that my mind is breathing in. Break out, I've got to see.
What is up, Level Up Nation, and welcome to the Thursday, September 24th edition of LvLUp Live, your home for gaming and esports news, brought to you by OTN Media. My name is Fiasco, that handsome gentleman in the Xbox hoodie, because I have a feeling we're talking about Xbox today as well. That's the king of the courtside king, My name's also Jon. His name's also Joey. So if you want to go by, normal people, IRL names, you can call us that as well. Joey, what's poppin', buddy? It's Thursday. Happy Friday Eve.
Jon, LvLUp Nation, it has been one of the biggest weeks in gaming history. We touched on a lot with the Bethesda acquisition by Xbox earlier in the week. We've had pre-orders for PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. Lots and lots, but Jon, there is a new star in the night sky of gaming, and that is Amazon's Luna coming out as well.
Oh my, don't give everything away in the first 30 seconds, Joey. My goodness. Nation, if you want to get a sneak peek of Joey unable to keep the Ziploc bag sealed on our topics, make sure you follow him on Twitter. You can find him at Courtside King. Find myself at Fiasco too. If you're not already, go ahead and shoot us a follow. And while you're at it, you're already watching the show, so why not follow the show as well on social media? You can find LvLUp Live on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at LvLUp Live. That is LvLUp Live, so go ahead and shoot the entire team a follow, if you will. And Nation, as always, if you wish to listen to the podcast version of the show, LvLUp Podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. And since you're listening to the podcast already, why not leave us a really cool review? Doesn't have to be awesome, just can be cool. Cool is completely fine as well. Reviews do go a long way, help grow the show and reach new listeners. So if you do have a moment, we'd appreciate you taking a small portion out of your day, leaving us a really cool review, or just tell a friend, tell a family member. Word of mouth is really awesome as well. All right, Joey, you teased on it a little bit. Obviously, we're talking about some cloud gaming, but we also have a weekend pack of gaming and esports as well ahead of us. So I have a feeling today's show is going to be jam-packed with amazing topics. Aside from cloud gaming, what else are we heading on today on the Thursday edition of LvLUp Live?
Guys, I am stoked. So I came into today thinking this is going to be a really short episode. There's not going to be a ton to talk on after a huge episode last Thursday and Monday. There's quite a bit, though, guys. We'll keep it somewhat simple here. We won't go too crazy, but there is a lot. We're talking a new studio being developed from Blizzard employees, a lot of big-name Blizzard employees moving over there. We're talking a new little deal between Riot Games and YouTube. The sticky webbed situation of Sony and Spider-Man and upgrading that game. Xbox pre-orders this week and how that went. Again, we got to talk Amazon because they are now entering that cloud gaming ring and much, much more.
All right, we have our topics. I don't know about you, Joey. It is Thursday. I used to be in a fraternity in college, so I like to call it Thirsty Thursday. So, Joey, it is time for the time-honored tradition of the show that's been passed down from generation to generation, mainly just us because we're the only hosts of this show ever. So, Joey, your drink of choice for today, Thursday, September 24th, 2020, in the year of the Xbox.
Jon, sticking with Aslan Beer Company, I'm switching up the beer, though. I'm going with a Degens, a German Pilsner, to celebrate you wearing a Bayern jersey. You know? Why not?
Super Cup champions, baby.
Heyo.
I am continuing the celebration that is Oktoberfest. I'm having another delicious Sam Adams Oktoberfest. So cheers to everyone, and cheers to Bayern. What's up? 4 trophies in 2020 already. That's soccer. You're probably not here for soccer. That's okay. It hurts Joey deep on the inside because he's a Man City fan, and that's all that matters. All right, Nation, we have our topics. We have our drinks. Joey's giving me that death stare from both monitors on side of me right now. It's kind of creepy. I don't want to look at him anymore. Let's get right into gaming and esports news, Joey. Let's go.
Jon, to me, it sounds like Bayern needs a little bit of competition, just like we're seeing with Amazon jumping into the ring here, but we're not going to touch on that just yet. There is a few stories for partnerships and investments that we're going to touch on first. Riot Games is partnering up with YouTube Gaming. How are they partnering up, you ask? Well, they are going to offer in-game drops to players who link their Riot account with their YouTube account during Worlds and watching Worlds events. So this is something we've seen a lot with Twitch, whether it's a new game release, whether it's an esport event. People have lined up their accounts with Twitch for all these different games, all these different services, and they get drops for watching a certain amount of time. We've done it with Sea of Thieves, Jon, you and I just recently. We've done it for beta codes. We did it for the VALORANT beta for way too many hours to count. But there's a lot of different things that utilize this on Twitch. Now, I could be wrong, but to my knowledge, I think this is one of YouTube's first steps into this drop thing. And again, chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is big. You're not only coming into it, even if you're already in the industry, you're now setting up a partnership with it for the biggest esports event in the world in League of Legends World Championship and doing it with one of the biggest esport companies in Riot Games. This to me is big for YouTube more than it is big for Riot. Riot could do this with anyone. Riot's done this on their own platform, but now coming into a partnership with Google and YouTube here, this is huge for YouTube, especially in their competition with Twitch right now.
Yeah, and really this is the next step in the evolution of what League of Legends is doing. When League of Legends started doing this, where you had to watch the game on their website, the embedded player was a YouTube player. So essentially they're just evolving this to the YouTube platform as well. I like it. As far as I know, Joey, I think you are 100% correct. I believe this is the first time YouTube will be doing any kind of drops like this. So I'm kind of curious to see how smooth this goes for it really being its first major event with Worlds. I'm actually really kind of curious too to see how that impacts the numbers on Twitch. Will drops for players be enough to not necessarily, kill off the viewership on Twitch, but reduce the viewership numbers enough that Twitch is like, okay, wait a minute, this is something that we really need to talk about. That's kind of the golden question here is, will this partnership with LOL, Riot Games, and YouTube really affect the Twitch viewership, at least here in North America and possibly in Europe as well?
And it sounds like it's a little in the waters too, because we're coming in, they're not saying it's way to YouTube. We're not going to come in and do this long term. We're purely coming in and doing this for Worlds 2020, which is like a event. So I think depending on how that goes, that's when we see Riot maybe pivot to say, hey, Twitch, you want to offer a deal as hey, Riot, do we just want to do things ourselves and not have to worry about these other platforms? I think there's a few different things being played out here in this first month, I guess, experiment with YouTube in a sense. We do have a few people in chat. So OG Flavortown is one of the ones in chat tonight. I know you are a big fan of a lot of Overwatch League over there, Flavortown. Do you get drops from Overwatch League on YouTube? Because I typically don't watch through YouTube. So I'm kind of curious. I've gone directly through the app, by the way, for most of myself because I'm never in the house when it's happening. Are there any drops for Overwatch League? Because I know they used to do tokens and they still do through the app. Is that linked through YouTube as well?
Yeah, I think it was originally through Twitch when they were doing it, if they're still doing it. I'll be honest, I haven't paid attention too much to my Overwatch League drops as I just tend to just get hyper-focused and end up watching the match. So yeah, that's actually a really good question. I'm kind of curious too if YouTube is offering drops for Overwatch League as well.
Yeah, because I know they drop through the app. I just don't know if they drop through YouTube itself. So I don't remember ever connecting my Blizzard account to YouTube. Do you remember ever doing that?
I can confirm I have never connected my Blizzard account to YouTube.
So we'll have to get back to you guys on that one. But yes, Riot Games, YouTube, big esports, big streaming platform coming together in our first partnership of the evening. The second one, John, is big. This is a new investment. This is an investment from a crowd that has been around for quite a while, a crowd that knows gaming and knows gamers. And that is a lot of former Blizzard employees, including Mike Morhaime, who I believe he was the president of Blizzard Entertainment at one point, if I remember correctly. So they have teamed up. They have launched Dreamhaven, a new game company based in Irvine, California, right next door to Blizzard, it feels like. Dreamhaven will create and publish original games for players around the world, and it has established its first two studios as well. I love these names. It's Moonshot and Secret Door are the first two studios under this Dreamhaven umbrella. Lots of Hearthstone vets in particular, John. So they're pulling people. I believe they pulled people from some Heroes of the Storm teams, from a couple of the other teams like Wizard or World of Warcraft. And on top of that, it seems like the majority of veterans coming over from Blizzard are from that Hearthstone team.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are looking at this move and calling it Blizzard 2.0, or I believe, Joe, you had a tweet out that called it Blizzard before Activision, which is 100% correct. Blizzard before Activision was an amazing company. Activision came in, and just like everything Activision touches, it does not turn to gold. In fact, it turns to dust, destruction, and death. And that's currently where we're seeing Blizzard at, it feels like. And this is coming from a Blizzard fanboy. I enjoy World of Warcraft. I enjoy Overwatch. I enjoy StarCraft. I just don't enjoy what they're doing currently. So yeah, I think it's great. A lot of the old names from Blizzard teaming back up, coming back into the gaming world, into gaming development. And, these are some of the brilliant minds that brought us some of these franchises, some of these titles that have been with some gamers for their entire life, that have created a alternate world that you can get lost in if you're talking World of Warcraft. These are the people, these are the brains behind it. And, they're out of Blizzard, but now they're coming back. It has me excited to see what they could potentially do under this new banner, under this new company. What other ideas do they have that could be just as immersive, just as, I don't want to use the word, but it's true, but just as addicting as what, a World of Warcraft or Hearthstone or a Overwatch or a StarCraft could be. I'm excited for this. I think it's going to be great.
Just need the final piece of the puzzle to come together, John. I need Chris Metzen to be involved in some way over there. Maybe he just comes in and gives a few ideas every once in a while or something like that. But I feel like if you're going to have the full Blizzard puzzle piece, in a sense, Chris Metzen is a vital piece of that puzzle. But yeah, overall, I'm super excited for this. Not only are these cool names, Dreamhaven, Moonshot, Secret Door, but on top of that, all these creators that we have known and loved, creators that have really made Blizzard what it was up until the Activision acquisition, which it still has a lot of its identity still. Let's not say acquisition has changed, or the acquisition has changed everything from Activision, but things have definitely changed. We've seen more loot boxes for one. We've seen a number of, I'm not going to say questionable decisions, but decisions that might not have the players necessarily at the center, depending who you talk to. So I'm not going to say everything has been bad since the acquisition, but there are definitely parts of Blizzard that kind of fell to the wayside. Part of that communication with fans has not quite been as clean as it was prior to that acquisition. So I think one of the big things with this is keeping that communication open. One, they're going to come up with immersive worlds, creative worlds, something extremely interesting and new, like we originally saw with World of Warcraft and Azeroth and that whole environment involved. Now they get that second chance. They can come out, they can create something new, something fresh, but again, they can re-engage the fans the way they used to find those fun environments, those fun moments where they're able to connect with fans on different levels that we don't really see from like an EA Games, from an Activision, some of these big companies that continue to put out great content, don't get me wrong, but again, a lot of it kind of falls on deaf ears at times when it comes to the community environment of these games. This gives them a chance to reignite that. This gives them a chance to rebuild that from the ground up. And to me, as excited as I am for the new IPs that are going to come out of this, I love the idea of knowing that these are the Blizzard employees that listen to people. These are the employees that are going to help build their games based on what the community wants. I'm freaking stoked. So that's fun. Another one, though, this one not as fun. This one's a little bit of a sticky situation, as John said prior to the podcast, the Spider-Man situation, we're going to call it. We've heavily criticized 505 Games and a little bit of Remedy as well for their decisions around Control. Again, a lot of that blame probably falls on 505 as the publisher as opposed to Remedy as the game maker. Having said that, they have come out and said you have to buy the Ultimate Edition of Control to be able to get it on next-gen consoles. So whether you were an early adopter of Control, whether you hit a platinum trophy on your PlayStation 4 in Control, it doesn't make a difference. You have to go out and rebuy that game to get it on a next-gen platform. I get it in the sense that it's a different game. Sure, the graphics are going to be updated. Sure, it's going to have a few different changes here and there, but it's practically the same game, guys. We shouldn't have to go out and buy a full Ultimate Edition of the game to get it once again on a new platform. That sucks. It's not a big thing. Not happy about it at all. With that being said, Sony is making a similar move here with Spider-Man, but again, it is different. Sony is now confirmed to owners of Spider-Man for the PS4 that they can't upgrade to Spider-Man Remastered on the PS5 unless they buy the Miles Morales Ultimate Edition. Again, a little bit different, guys. So the way the whole Control situation is looking, they have to buy the same game twice practically. With this situation, they are getting a new Spider-Man game plus a remastered edition of the old Spider-Man game for PS4, and it's a lot cheaper. I think the whole thing in total is like $70 for both games in a sense. So to me, this is not as bad of a situation. At the same point, it's once again people coming up and recharging for similar material, even if it has a reskin, does it really warrant another value, another purchase?
Yeah, and it's an argument that happens at the end of every console generation, at the beginning of another one. There's that awkward crossover period. And I feel like gamers have every right to be upset by this. Sony is raising prices on games to $70 a game. Xbox has announced that as of right now, they will not be raising it to $60 per game. So on top of the price hike, now you're going to have an exclusive game on your console for launch that's supposed to be one of your bread and butter games that's going to convince people to buy your console. And now it's like, okay, cool, I'm not going to get my console until mid-November, but I still have a PlayStation 4 and I can buy the game now, but I don't have to buy it again once I get the PlayStation 5. Again, I feel like 2020 has been a very odd year where developers have been a little bit more friendly towards the gamer, that we've gotten to the point where we feel like, again, you rewind, 10, 20 years over the generation of all these consoles, and this was never up for debate. You never, you knew if you bought a game at the end of a console life and you upgraded, you're going to have to buy that game a second time. But now the fact that these developers have kind of teased us, given that little taste of the idea that, even if we have to pay a little bit more, we can still upgrade to the full game on the next generation console. Now it's something that we're kind of looking for. That's something that a lot of people are going to look at the PlayStation 5 and be like, hey, look, I'm a fan of Spider-Man. I'm a fan of Sony. I want a PlayStation 5, but I don't want to have to pay for the same game twice, lose all my progression, lose everything, or, just because I'm upgrading a console. Right now, going into another console is already a massive investment as it is. You're raising game prices also, and then now you're going to say, oh, you have to buy the game all over again. It's a bad situation. It's not friendly to the gamers, and I feel like it does rub a lot of people the wrong way, and rightfully so. I wouldn't be happy about it either. So, it's tough. Sony's in a really bad situation at the moment. Xbox is really kicking their butt all over the place, and more bad news like this just really doesn't help Sony's current image going into the PlayStation 5 generation.
Yeah, I just put a poll up in chat as well, guys, on how you feel about this. Again, I think it is different. The Control situation, there's no way I go out and buy Control Ultimate Edition. Owners had already purchased it originally. There's very little being redone. It's going to be the same game with some graphical updates. I get it. There are updates. Is it worth a full another purchase? No, it is not. When it comes to Spider-Man, I think the situation is a little bit different. Again, I do not like the idea of people being recharged for games, but when you look at it overall, you're coming in for a game that is not only remastered, but you're getting a new game alongside it. So you're paying maybe $20 more for this fully remastered edition. It's not like they're charging the same thing again. If it was like the Control situation, we'd be seeing this going for like, I don't know, $100, because you'd have Miles Morales at its $40, $50 cost plus Spider-Man all over again. This is not like this. Again, they are charging, but they're charging only $20 versus I think it was $60 when it was originally retailed. So to me, not the greatest situation, but not as bad as people are making it sound out to be either. And it looks like our poll is still pulling in some votes. Right now, 50% for maybe, 50% for heck no.
For heck no.
Over there. Yeah, the options were yes, maybe, no, and heck no. By the way, heck no just pulled in another vote, taking the lead here. We will take a look at our next topic as that continues to count down, though, and that is Xbox pre-orders, John. So we knew the day and time ahead of time. That was great. We're like, okay, Xbox, we like this. You've come out, you've told us the day, you've told us the time that pre-orders are going live, and on top of that, you told us the retailers, you told us for every region, and you told us what to look forward to. That was great. The all-access plan was available. We knew the prices. We knew the day. We knew the time. Everything looked great. And then it happened. And we can very gladly say, as John and I were out there perusing the markets and somewhat purchasing Xbox between us and some friends, it was crazy, John. It was absolutely insane. The retailers, Microsoft Store, even by itself, could not really hold too well. And we saw it over and over continue to crash, continue to freeze, continue to get stuck, regardless of what retailer you ended up going to. Then on top of that, I think Best Buy opened like 30 minutes to an hour late. Amazon opened 30 minutes to an hour late. So yes, Xbox, we applaud you for giving us the day ahead of time, for giving us the price well ahead of time, for giving us all this beautiful information that still ended up with us stuck in giant loading queues. So in the end, it really ended up like the PS5 with just a little bit more information up front.
Yeah, and I was chatting with a friend outside of the OTN community during the whole Xbox pre-order snafu, if we want to even call it that. And I mean, whenever there's some kind of demand for any kind of piece of merchandise and it's only available to pre-order online, you're essentially DDoSing that company's website for however long that product is in stock. You have just a massive influx of traffic in a short period of time. I know I can say, at least for myself and for Panicking Pat, who's nice enough to send us a picture of this, I had all three monitors at work on three different retailers at 10:55 a.m. ready to go on the links for the pre-order page, constantly refreshing it just to see what would go on. Now, that's just me. That's just Panicking Pat. I'm pretty sure, Joey, you probably had it up on a monitor too. Times that by a couple 100 million, possibly. That's a lot of people trying to do the same thing at the same time. Now, there are several times where I got an Xbox into one of my carts. Obviously, I released it because I'm not going to buy an Xbox. But there were other times where it would go into my cart and I click checkout and then it would disappear. Best Buy. So if box stores weren't struggling enough, Best Buy was an absolute disaster. I believe their sales came online around 12:30, and then they took it back down because they didn't like the way it was working on their system. They needed to fix something, and they put it back up like 45 minutes later. That was a disaster. Target was notorious all over social media with people getting it in their cart, then magically disappearing. Again, has to do with the website traffic and everything else too. But it was just absolutely bad. And Joey, I haven't seen a single person that was able to get the Xbox through the All Access Pass. I don't have any person that's a friend that was able to do it. That was something that I tried to do if I was able to get through to it. Now, I understand the financial website that Xbox was directing them to after they were able to purchase it was absolutely swamped as well. So, I mean, there's just a lot of things that went wrong, but is typical on a product launch. It does leave a lot to be desired, but I don't know how you actually improve it going forward without being able to handle that kind of traffic online.
Yeah, so let's talk about All Access. This is the thing that allows you to pay. It's like a monthly fee for the Xbox Series S or the Xbox Series X, and it comes with Game Pass as well. I think the S was like $23 a month, and the other one was like $34 a month, something around those lines, if I remember correctly. So reasonable prices. Again, per month, different people can afford different things. Some people just want to buy the console outright. But again, it was a different option out there for people who might not have that $300 to $500 readily available to put down right then. Now, with that being said, and I do not get the thinking behind this. So one of the things that comes with this particular line is you have to get approved. There has to be an approval process where they say you can afford this. We can grant you this financial loan in a sense for you to pay off over these course of these months. I get that. It makes sense. It has to be approved because if you're not financially well enough to even do that, should you be getting a console to begin with? So with that being said, why on earth would you open that up the day of the console launch at the same time as the console launch? I don't know if this was a Microsoft foresight, if this was, who was it, Citizens Bank that I think it went through. I don't get where the thinking is on that. I would say if you're going to go ahead and say, hey, pre-orders are going to open on this day at this time. Starting tomorrow, you can go ahead and get pre-registered for All Access, and you'll get a note on your account or some kind of check mark that says, hey, if this person buys an Xbox, they are pre-approved for this. That completely bypasses that website. Everything gets done already. And then you just go right into it. There's no, let's wait for this pre-approval process. Let's wait while someone goes ahead and checks our credit history. It just did not make sense to me. I don't know why on earth anyone would open something like that up the day of pre-orders when you already know hundreds of thousands of people are going to be coming to your website. That part was probably the most frustrating to me, John.
Yeah, it almost feels like there needs to be some kind of like lottery system or some kind of ticketing system. I know another idea that I heard, I believe it was D-Rod, saying that like if you're already in the ecosystem, almost like a seniority kind of idea, with, how long you've been with that console family should put you at an advantage. Not a bad idea. There's different forms. I don't want to necessarily call it gatekeeping, but you do have to, I feel like you do have to find a way to do this whole process better. Obviously we're not back in the good old days of people lining up at 2 a.m. outside of GameStop or Funko Land. There's a name for you, Funko Land, acquired by GameStop. You're or EB Games. There's another one. You're not lining up at 2 a.m. for a console release. You're not lining up for a midnight release for a video game either, where some guy dressed in Master Chief comes out and starts handing you Bible quotes. Those days are gone. No one really does it anymore. It's all done online. I feel like we have to be better, or at least find a better way of doing this if we're going to continue to have this online, because it just seems like it's not working. Obviously, there's a demand for it, but obviously we need to have that demand met by functioning websites, servers able to handle that traffic load.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a couple ideas. One that's been thrown around is a lottery system. Like to come out, throw a lottery. Everyone can put their email into this box. It's going to get drawn a day before pre-orders. If your spot comes up and you're available, you can pre-order, I don't know, between a 20-minute, half an hour time cycle. I think another idea is kind of like, and it sounds crazy, but like the deli counter. When people go to the deli counter in a grocery store, they take a number. Whoever comes to the website first gets number 1, number 2, number 3, etc. Put them in some kind of waiting line. If your number gets called and Xbox Series X is still available at that time, sure, go ahead and pre-order your copy. I think you limit it to one console per household, which I think Xbox did on all the sites as well. I don't know how that worked out on other sites. I know for Microsoft it worked out. It doesn't sound like, based on some of our friends, John, from getting their consoles, it sounds like Best Buy, it did not work out. So I don't know if that was sent to the retailers as well, or if that was purely just Microsoft doing the one per household. But yeah, I like that idea coming out up front. I just think some kind of checkpoint, number system, lottery system, something like that needs to be implemented. Otherwise, these websites just crash and people are on here for hours trying to get their console.
Yeah, GameStop had a wait room that used the first come, first serve method. There were several people for Launcher, the gaming section for the Washington Post, that went through GameStop as well. And, I had a GameStop screen up as well because I'm a glutton for punishment, and I, for some reason, would like to see the death and destruction of GameStop. So I'm watching it. It never moved. I had it up for well over 3 hours, and all it would do would just constantly refresh on itself. The Washington Post reporters even said the exact same thing on their social media, that, GameStop has this virtual queue to stop their, site from being essentially DDoSed during this whole entire process, which is smart, but there was no counter. There was no, this is your, position number. There's no, this is your whatever. Some people may log on and say, oh, I'm in position 1.3 million. I'm not going to get one, and they're going to log off. And guess what that does? That frees up a pathway to that website to speed it up. So I like that idea. GameStop tried to implement it. I feel like they failed, like they normally do, when it came to it, just because there wasn't enough information provided. But overall, I'm glad the information Microsoft gave on the pre-orders was there. They definitely learned from Sony's. I don't even want to call it a disaster, because
Let's call it a fiasco.
I don't want to call it a fiasco because it's too punny. It was just it was a poo-poo show. It's a family show, Joey. It was an absolute poo-poo show, and Sony's half blank apology was an absolute joke. Microsoft came out, kind of made fun of it, and then had the exact same issues when it came to pre-order, just minus the fact that it didn't release 12 hours ahead of time and not telling everyone and not leaving the Xbox community out like Sony did when they promised to send them emails to give them a better position in line. But either way, Joey, Sony and Microsoft have room for improvement when it comes to pre-orders for the next gen. But the good news is we probably won't have to go through this for at least another decade. So there is that to look forward to.
That is the hope. So to review, guys, the good, we knew the day and time ahead of time, the prices, all that information was given to us from Microsoft, unlike what we saw with the Sony ones going off a little early. The bad, even though we had that information, the retail website still crashed. They still did terrible. It was like a DDoS attack all over again, no better than what we saw earlier in last week with the PS5. It's a mess. And John, like you said, this is something with all tech. It's not only consoles. We saw it with NVIDIA as well with graphics cards. We've seen it with iPhones before on Apple releases. When new tech comes out and it's limited in quantity, all these sites are going to be under heavy traffic, are going to have a very big time struggling to keep their consumers happy as everyone tries to get through the line very quickly. So again, not something new, but something that still has not really been remedied in video games and really entertainment in general at this point. Now let's move on to the great. So we talked about last week, PS5 sold out completely. They did extremely well. Xbox, very similar things here as well. They sold out pretty quickly. The United States was a little bit different because of the late website releases and a couple of the bug issues going on. But overall, in most countries, the console sold out in under 10 minutes. On top of that, it was less than 1 minute in South Korea and around 15 minutes in Japan. Japan being Xbox's weakest market of markets that they sell in currently. So the fact that they saw them go so quickly is a big win. On Twitter, we had a couple quotes from the Xbox Twitter account. We are humbled by the record-breaking demand for Xbox Series X and S. And then from their marketing director, Aaron Greenberg, our retailers told us we set all kinds of records for traffic. Again, guys, these are very vague quotes, let's say. We don't know what these records are. We don't know what the record-breaking demand is. We really don't know what any of that means, so just take it as it is, and we'll have to find out what that means later on. Xbox also hit #1 on Amazon's bestsellers list in 9 countries. Those being USA, Germany, which hosts that Bayern jersey that John is wearing over there, France, Canada, Great Britain, Italy, Spain, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. Those are the 9 countries that it hit number 1 for the best-selling list. Now, we have to dive into some details here, John, before we move on from pre-orders. A lot of big quotes being thrown out here, a lot of tops of sales lists. Again, very little on the number side. So a couple things to keep in mind, LvLUp Nation. The sellout timing is very impressive for both the PS5 and the Xbox consoles, but we have no idea what the actual stock was. So it doing extremely well in South Korea and selling out in less than a minute, they could have had 5 consoles for all that we know. We have no idea if it was 500 consoles, if it was 5,000 consoles, if it was a single-digit handful of 5 consoles. We have absolutely no idea. So these record-breaking numbers, these sellouts in under a minute or under 5 minutes are great, and they're wonderful, and congrats Xbox and PlayStation, but we have absolutely no idea what the stock looked like. So everyone that's like, oh, my console's better, it sold 2 minutes faster in your country, and oh, my console's doing better because of this. Guys, you have no idea how many consoles for either side sold. So when you look at these numbers, LvLUp Nation, let's not get caught up like some of the fanboys on Twitter. There's a lot behind this that we really don't know yet. So yes, it's great that it sold fast, but we just don't know how many actually sold yet. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I mean, it's a completely valid point. You know, yeah, it sounds great that it sold out in Korea and Japan in such an impressive amount of time, especially like you said, Joey, when Japan is Xbox's weakest market. But was their stock anywhere close as it was to in Europe or in North America? Probably not. So, you know, there are a lot of factors that go into it. I would love for these companies to be more transparent and actually release numbers. The statistics geek inside of me would absolutely love that. Just to kind of see what the actual demand really was. But I have no doubt there were records broken, especially when it comes to traffic. I mean, it was an absolute flood of people wanting the next generation console. We're seeing it right now as we speak with, like you said, Joey, the NVIDIA graphics card, the new RTX 30 series coming out. The 70 just went on sale today. And Newegg, I'm pretty sure, sold out of that in under 10 minutes. You know, and that's what they're now considering their entry-level card, which in every other generation, the 70 part of the series was more of your mid-tier. A $500 graphics card that's just as powerful as the 2080 Ti. So that is something to be absolutely reckoned with. Tech demand is up. A lot of people want new tech. A lot of people are, you know, we're still quarantined. You know, we're still on restriction on what we can and can't do out in the public. A lot of people are spending more time at home. A lot of people are having social gatherings at home in small numbers, and they're turning to technology. So it's not a surprise to see that demand continue to grow. I have a feeling we're going to see it grow even more over the next several months, as it doesn't feel like the world's changing too much anytime soon. You know, we're already seeing an increase in gaming, you know, massively over the past 4 or 5 months or the past quarter or two. So, you know, it's not a surprise. First off, you know, even though it was a complete disaster for both of them, it was still a success. They got done what they wanted to get done, which was sell a bunch of consoles. They all sold out. So in their eyes, job well done, and kudos to the launch of a new console generation.
Okay, I have one more pre-order question before we move on to John and the chat. This one, it comes out. Okay, so I have no doubt that Xbox was going to completely sell out their stuff. I had no doubt that PlayStation 5 was going to completely sell out on pre-orders. I think that was pretty predetermined. We knew there was somewhat of a limited number of consoles. We knew they were going to sell very well. Gaming has been up like incredibly since the whole COVID thing, since everyone is pretty much stuck indoors for the most part. There's definitely been a giant demand for gaming. Now, with that being said, we saw a giant piece of news drop, the second biggest acquisition in video game history drop on Monday, and that was with Microsoft and Xbox acquiring ZeniMax Media, Bethesda, all those other big developers under that umbrella. How much do you think that impacted sales? Again, not saying that it would have not sold out had that not happened, but do you think that led to a giant increase of traffic, or do you think it was going to have that much traffic regardless?
I think it would have that much traffic regardless. I really do. You know, so it's funny because the average gamer in North America, just using this as an example, is in their late 20s to early 30s. That is the millennial generation. And the millennial generation grew up on video games. They are still very active gamers. So they have money now. They have big boy jobs. It doesn't surprise me that that demand is there. I think it's always still going to be there regardless. And I think with Gen Z, piggybacking off of the millennial generation growing up on video games and social media as well, I feel like it's just going to continue to grow and grow and grow. So yeah, it really isn't surprising to me that the numbers we saw, were what they were. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if in the future they sold out even quicker.
Go on there, John. So while I'm typing this, I think it was a giant thing, to be completely honest. I think when it comes down to it, I think I knew 7 people, either directly or somewhat mutually through someone else, that ended up switching consoles because of this factor. So I think it's a big deal, and I think it did increase traffic. Do I think it still would have been a nightmare to pre-order? I definitely do. But overall, I think this is one of those things that just completely led into this. The fact that you had this giant acquisition, one of the biggest in video game history. You have IPs like Fallout, IPs like Doom, Elder Scrolls with Morrowind, Skyrim, which is available on everything, including your refrigerator, it feels like. A lot of these big IPs that people have come to know and love, now accessible on a different platform exclusively. So again, the way Xbox does things, it's typically going to be on PC and on Xbox, and now you can play it on your mobile device, as long as that mobile device is an Android phone or tablet. But it is one of those things that they're not going to completely cut the IP off to a big audience. But at the same point, your PlayStation audience, your potential Stadia audience, your potential Nintendo Switch audience, they might not necessarily get that game at all, or they might have it delayed like a year or a couple years. We really don't know. So that's one of the big questions out there, and I feel like that really shook a lot of people that like RPGs. When you think of RPGs, a lot of those were those Fallouts. A lot of those were those Elder Scrolls. So when you pull away something like that big, I think if RPGs are your primary game style, then that might be something that ends up moving you over to a different platform. It could be the misleading information that we've seen from Sony, or it could end up being a couple other factors too for this potential switch over to a new platform, maybe the affordability of the Xbox Series S. But one of the big things, in all honesty, I think was this Bethesda acquisition. I think that's part of the reason at the last minute we saw so much traffic get driven up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that the acquisition didn't cause an extra increase. It definitely just replaced or realigned where that traffic went. Yeah, there were probably a good group of people on the fence that might have been looking at the PS5, heard news about this acquisition, and now they considered an Xbox console going forward. So yeah, I mean, it definitely had an impact. I don't think that, again, until numbers come out, I don't think it was, if this deal did not go through, does the Xbox sell out in 40 minutes in Japan? I don't think so. I still think it sells out in under 15 minutes. Does it sell out in the U.S. if all retailers launch at the exact same time like they were supposed to, and Best Buy and Amazon didn't decide to go off and do their own little thing? Yeah, I still think it sells out just as much, but I just think just the traffic to get there might have been a little bit heavier than anticipated. Well, not anticipated, but a little bit more. I mean, they're going to have the traffic anyway, but it just may have been, maybe a few 100,000 people extra, maybe.
Just a few 100,000.
That's it.
But yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that is very small. It looks like chat on the poll is pretty split. We had a 33% between yes, maybe, and no. Not too many votes on that one in particular, but very, very split all the same.
What'd you vote?
I voted yes. I really do think it had an impact. Like I said, I don't think it's a ginormous impact. Maybe it's around that 100,000 that you're saying. But just me in and of myself, I know at least 7 people through me or through friends that ended up switching over, who were not originally going to end up pre-ordering an Xbox and either canceled their PS5 one or just got a second console to get that experience as well. So who knows? I mean, the other thing to think about, and I get it, like people want to be quick. Hey, Bethesda's going over there. Let's make moves now. But none of their new games are going to come out anytime soon either. So it's not like you have to rush out and get that Xbox right then. It's not like you have to rush out and get a PS5 for that next Ratchet and Clank. Like these games are still a couple months off, most likely coming in like spring, maybe a little later. Some people are nervous because consoles are a little bit limited in stock at the moment. We don't know what that's going to look like even into early 2021. So maybe that's one reason to move. But the deal in and of itself, I think, swayed people. Again, it swayed some a little bit earlier than others to make that action now, though. Xbox has launched a new family settings app. Jon, you and I got a chance to kind of check this one out a little bit today. It's allowing parents and guardians to have more control over playtime, game ratings, fishy friend requests, and more things like that. To us, the app looked very clean, very customizable. I like this idea. It's one of those things that I think could get out of hand. I think parents and kids need to have some kind of conversation around this as well. I don't think it should just be a parent in the other room saying, haha, Johnny's been on there too long. That's the end of your night. Sitting in there just clicking controls and ending games and canceling friend requests and canceling parties and all that craziness. I think it needs to be a conversation like, hey, you get this many hours of the week to play. If it comes down to a situation like that, they can put that time in there, and then it's a not the parents and children have to agree. I just personally believe that some kind of communication there, as opposed to just cutting off blatantly, is not really the way to go. But as long as there's some kind of communication, I'm not going to tell you guys how to parent. I just think that is the way that I would personally go about using this app. And with that in mind, I think it really does bring some clean controls to parents, as well as a way for children to maybe communicate some kind of issues to parents as well that they could be experiencing in games.
Yeah, and I do think it's smart. Now, you were able to do most of the features online already from your Microsoft account. You just had to log into the website and you could set the time restrictions and everything. This just makes it easier. I do like the added parameters of when it comes to friend requests and messaging. That is something that, a lot of parents take seriously and should be taken seriously. Your kids, again, not going to tell you how to parent, but, you really don't want 8-year-old Johnny talking to 53-year-old Creeper McCreeperson, through DMs on Xbox Messenger. So, I think it's smart. It's, you're not exactly hovering, but you're doing it more to keep your kids safe. But I do agree with Joey. That line of communication should be there. I have, control over my nephew's Xbox, and, it's a negotiation between, my sister, who's his mom, that, she openly admits she doesn't know too much about video games and that kind of technology. So that's why she comes to me and asks questions, so I applaud her for being a proactive parent when it comes to that. And, really keeping an eye on what my nephew's doing online when it comes to the Xbox, and vice versa. If, let's say, hypothetically speaking, my nephew gets 3 hours a day after school, but he didn't do his homework and he needs to go do his homework. Boom, simple. Phone, done. Before it was, okay, let me log on to my account. Oh, I forgot my password. Hold on. Let me log on to, nope, it wasn't that password. Let me go ahead and put that on. Okay, cool. It's like, oh, now two-step. Okay, well, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and fix that. Okay, cool, awesome. Okay, now we're there. Okay, now let me go to that page, which is the fourth hyperlink on that page, which is on that menu, sub-menu of that part of the page. And the app just makes it so much easier for parents to actually be able to manipulate the Xbox, and manipulate not in a bad way, but just manipulate and control the Xbox to do what the parent feels is in the best interest of their kid in the Xbox. I like it. Clean app. Looks great. Very happy about it. My sister, who really is into that kind of technology, she's on the app now as well, and she even said it was very easy to use. So that's a massive compliment there, Xbox.
Good stuff. So if you guys are parents out there, that is an option for you now for Xbox parents. The Family Settings app, I believe, is what it's called in the App Store, and I believe is Android and iOS at this point. Is that correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, cool. Last but not least, in terms of consoles, we got to talk next-gen storage expansions because we saw the price of the Xbox One drop today. Again, this is an Xbox 1 terabyte SSD. It's got that special Xbox Velocity thing going on with it, so it is a little bit different than a standard SSD drive. It came out priced at $219, about $10 shy of what I thought it was going to be. A lot of people complaining that this is very, very high for them in general. But a few other options to mention out here. There is cold storage available for the Xbox consoles as well as the PS5. This means you can plug in any hard drive, any SSD, and store games on it. The one difference being for next-gen games, you cannot play off that cold storage hard drive. It is purely there for storage. So if you're going to end up putting all your, I was going to say Mario, but that doesn't work for either of these consoles, your Spider-Man games that you had to repay for, they can sit on that other console, but they're going to have, or the other hard drive, but they're going to have to be pulled over to your main SSD to be able to play them from there if you do go with this cold storage drive in a sense. Again, if you go with the card, like we talked about previously with Xbox, it plugs right in. Then from there, you can play off of it, but it is going to cost you a big $219 price tag on that. Now, with PlayStation, we don't really know what's going on yet. There's been some leaks that it's potentially going to be there's going to be an option for a larger SSD with that new patented Sony technology that's going to make the SSD really big and really fast and amazing and all this greatness. Now, with that being said, if the leaks are believed to be true, this is an internal hard drive replacement. So that 820 or something gigabyte hard drive currently in the PS5 would be replaced directly with whatever this expansion hard drive would be, whether it's 1 terabyte, whether it's even bigger than that. It would end up being internally replaced. Now, John and I have issues with this. The biggest one being when you look at these consoles, you're going to end up cutting against your manufacturer's guarantee, your warranty, in a sense, if you open up these consoles. Now, again, I don't know how Sony's going to handle this. And again, it's not confirmed that it is an internal hard drive, but I'm guessing there's going to be an option to either like send it away to Sony and get it replaced from a Sony retailer or from a Sony partnered retailer, or to replace it yourself. Now, the difference is one is going to cost you some time and money to ship it and send it away potentially. The other could cost you your warranty. So if it is only an internal option outside of these cold storage, I would highly recommend going with the cold storage and just transferring it between that hard drive and the SSD. John, you can elaborate more on that. But to me, opening up a console makes me very, very nervous.
Yeah, open up a console is never a good thing. You void the warranty, and let's be honest, most of us don't know what we're doing when we open up a console. It's a very different technology. It's a very different setup. Yeah, the basics are roughly the same. But, you know, any small thing can cause an issue. And then once that seal sticker is cut, there's no going back. You're going to have to rely on third-party options going forward. And I hate to tell you this, it's a brand new console. So there really are no third-party options as of yet. So it's just better that if you are going to do it, do the cold storage option. Just, you know, house games that you're not currently playing on there that you may want to come back to later on. Or the other option is send it off to Sony, which that is going to put you out of commission from gaming for quite a bit. Sony can take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. Really depends upon the demand, how much they have going on, how far you are from an official PlayStation repair center or upgrade center or whatever we're going to call it. There's a lot of pros and cons to doing it in each way. But the safest option, so you don't void your warranty and you don't screw yourself over in the long run. Because again, this is an investment for at least another 10 years. You know, that's what we're going to be seeing the next generation possibly being talked about in the next 8 to 10 years. You don't want to start off on the wrong foot on day one or on month 4 when you decide to upgrade your storage by doing it yourself and breaking that warranty sticker, because there is no going back on that.
Absolutely. So guys, be careful. If you're getting a next-gen console, make sure to check this out, whether it be that giant price tag on top of the one we saw from Microsoft, whether it be the potential of an internal drive replacement for Sony's PlayStation 5. Definitely something to think about when you're looking at increasing your storage. Maybe consider just deleting some of those games you haven't touched as much recently. Maybe consider the cold storage option. There's definitely a few out there to consider before paying the big price tag or making the big move of cutting that sticker. That brings us to the next big topic. So again, Bethesda's acquisition, huge this week, but the gaming news is not done yet. Amazon, we knew it was sitting there. We knew it was planning something cloud gaming, streaming wise. Now we know what it is, and that is Luna shining brightly in the night sky of gaming. They have joined the likes of Microsoft's xCloud, Google Stadia, and NVIDIA's GeForce Now. A few fun facts to throw out at the beginning here. Mark Whitten, who formerly worked on the Xbox One, is one of the big names working on Luna. And Phil Harrison, working on the Stadia, is also someone who worked on an Xbox One team. So now the heads of all three of these development outside of NVIDIA GeForce, with Phil Spencer at Xbox, Whitten over at Luna, and then Phil Harrison on the Stadia project. You have three people who work closely together on the Xbox One project, now working as the heads of these gaming sectors for big companies in Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. I think that's crazy. It's amazing to think that these three were once coworkers and are now not necessarily competing, but working in the same sector for, I would argue competition. I mean, eventually this is going to come down to where someone's going to have to make a choice on what cloud platform they want to go with, or they're going to end up paying tons and tons of money in monthly subscriptions to be a part of all of these. So big stuff coming out for cloud gaming. Luna, breaking it down just a little bit, John, before we dive in, the introductory price comes in at $5.99 a month. That is, I'm going to say, somewhat on par the way Xbox did it. They coupled it into Game Pass that already had about 15 million people subscribed to it. That one being $14.99 a month. So this is, again, slightly lower if you do end up going this route without Game Pass, with the Luna coming out at $5.99. It's going to be 4K at 60 frames per second for select titles. Again, this comes back to the whole stock thing. Like, it's great to put these numbers up there, but what does select titles mean? Does that mean 1 title, 2 titles, 20 titles? We really don't know because it's select for now. With that being said, I don't think Google Stadia, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chad, I don't think Google Stadia or Microsoft's xCloud currently hit 4K 60 frames per second, at least on most of their games. So that is a big win for Amazon, potentially, depending on what direction Google and Microsoft go there. This one's coming to PC, Mac, and iOS. Not Android, iOS. iOS, the same market that Google and Microsoft have had struggles getting onto. So how did Amazon do it? Did they wheel and deal? Did they make an under-the-table deal? No. They went around them. They did something similar to Epic, just without money involved. They made a web-based app to bypass the App Store policies. Apparently, this has been approved, or Apple is going to come out and say something eventually. But as of right now, they have made their way around those App Store policies. They do have an app that will be going up on iOS, and it will be coming to Android later down the line as well. More than 100 games will be available on launch for Luna, and there will be direct Twitch integration. So without going any further, we have the price point, $5.99 a month. We have that 4K 60 frames per second. We have the availability on iOS that Google and Microsoft do not have yet. John, did Amazon come out here with a bang already? And what are we going to see moving forward, in your opinion?
So just to answer some of those questions you just presented there, several months ago, looks like back in March, Google Stadia did announce they're starting to roll out 4K Stadia gaming games on the Stadia platform. Now, again, you have to remember, while this is great, it is still cloud gaming. Your resolution is only going to be as good as your internet connection. You can have an 8K TV. It doesn't mean you're going to get the best of the best because you still have dial-up, or because you have less than a gig Ethernet connection, or if you're using Wi-Fi, you're not going to get it. You have to have like the best of the best internet. And it has to be a stable connection to transfer that amount of data without any loss for 4K gaming. So it is possible. It definitely is possible. It is an option. But again, there's another wrinkle in that it does come down to your actual connection to the internet. But regardless of that, the idea of cloud gaming is great. That's something that gamers have always had an issue with, and that is not having enough storage. You constantly have to download more and more games. And Joey, when we take a look at how gaming has evolved, at the turn of the millennium, when we entered into the 2000s, we're talking about games that maybe were a gig big. And then all of a sudden in 2003, 2004, 2005, we're talking games jumping to 20, 25, 30 gigs. And now, Joey, it's 100 gigs to download Warzone for Call of Duty. And it's one mode, but you have to download the entire freaking game. So you just run out of storage. So as PC gamers, what do? We go out and we buy more storage, plug it into our computers, format it, and now I have 18 different hard drives, Joey. I have my first person shooter hard drive, my MOBA hard drive, my MMORPG hard drive. I have all my different hard drives now to separate all the games because I have so many games downloaded. Cloud gaming solves this. It's all run from a cloud. It's a great idea. Again, it is still early in that technology, so there's going to be bumps around the road. And Google is very familiar with that, with Stadia still having lag issues. And again, that also comes back down to connection. So there are other challenges that cloud gaming faces that traditional gaming doesn't have. But when you have Amazon, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Google all involved, these are some major tech companies that understand technology. And they'll be able to troubleshoot it faster than anybody else can. I'm not going to be able to troubleshoot it. Joey's not going to be able to troubleshoot it. I don't know. I mean, Joey might be able to troubleshoot it for all I know. I don't know. But, it's just something like, over time, it's something you have to be patient with. I'm not jumping on the cloud gaming train as of yet. I think cloud gaming for a mobile market is smart. mainly just because the files aren't that big. It's not a lot of data being transferred, and phones can handle it. But when it comes to computers or consoles or playing it at home and you need a strong Wi-Fi internet connection, to me, it's still a 50-50 proposition. But I do like the way this is going. It looks positive. It looks like it's going in the right direction for cloud gaming.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, and so I think it was like a year ago in an interview, Microsoft came out and someone's like, well, how do you feel about competing with Sony? Da, da, da. And I think it was Phil Spencer at the time. He's like, we're not competing with Sony. Like, yes, we're trying to sell consoles together. Yes, there's some kind of competition going in there, I guess you could say, but they were looking toward the future. They said, we're more worried about the people like an Amazon and a Google moving forward. Now we know why. We always knew that Google was working on a cloud gaming project. We always knew Amazon was working on one as well. But then we saw the release of Stadia. Then we saw the release of xCloud from Microsoft. And now we see Luna coming out as well from Amazon. These are your big heavy hitters. Yes, Sony does extremely well when it comes to the global console market. There's nothing against that. They sell consoles like crazy. They are by far the best-selling console maker and have been for many, many years. Now, when it comes to money, Sony can't compete with a Microsoft. Sony can't compete with a Google. Sony can't compete with Amazon. If either one of those three really wanted to, they could buy Sony out completely, and that would be the end of that. Now, with that being said, Sony is still doing well. They're still doing their thing in the console space, and they're also involved in many other electronics, whether it be movie deals, whether it be CDs, music, movies, every different kind of entertainment industry. So putting Sony to the side, now you have these big wigs of Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and we'll include NVIDIA as well with their GeForce Now. This is big. This is all of these big giant companies and their billionaire idea makers behind them saying, hey, cloud gaming is the next thing. Now, we've seen this before, John. I would say VR kind of came into this space, not on this level that we've seen cloud gaming, but a lot of companies, your HP, Valve with Steam, HTC, a number of people ended up buying into the headset VR idea. And I'm not going to say it's done poorly, but it's definitely not taken off at the speed that these companies originally expected. Now, with cloud gaming, if we look at the numbers that NVIDIA has pulled in, if we look at, I don't want to say Google Stadia because I haven't seen their numbers, but xCloud has done extremely well in Asia. For Microsoft and Amazon just is selling to everyone and their grandmother. And who knows, maybe grandma will be playing on Luna soon. But I think one of the big things with this is now you're having the three biggest companies potentially in North America, with Apple being the one excluded from the big four, really, included in cloud gaming, saying this is the future. We are ready to play into this, now increasing to 4K and 60 frames per second for some of their games, now developing their own games. To me, there's two clear winners at the moment, and that's NVIDIA and Microsoft. NVIDIA allows you to play your already accessible library alongside of this cloud computing, and Microsoft does the same thing. They already make a ton of games. They allow you to stream those games from their blades, from your own consoles in your house, which a lot of these other players cannot really necessarily compete with in that space. But when it comes to money, when it comes to buying studios, we've seen Microsoft do it before, and I would not be surprised if we see Google and Amazon jump into that next. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that, because I think this is going to be a studio arms race, Sean, if I'm being completely honest. I think we are into the Cold War of cloud gaming and video game history at this point. Mm-hmm. When we look at it, so we saw Bethesda, the deal with Microsoft. They came in, spent a ton of money. They ended up picking up Bethesda. Sony really can't answer that in a sense. A lot of their gaming budget has already been spent on different, we'll call them timed exclusivity deals, as well as some in-game content exclusivity deals. It's not going to be anywhere near a 7.5, 7.8, whatever the value was of that Bethesda deal. But when it comes down to it, they're spending a lot of their budget already. So yes, they can still buy a studio, but it's not going to be something ginormous. Now, Amazon and Google, they have a lot of free cash available. So with Bethesda going to Microsoft, do we eventually see an EA, an Activision, a Take-Two, something like that being acquired by an Amazon or a Google? I definitely think it's a possibility. Do I think one of those become exclusive to a Stadia or a Luna? I do not. I think sports games still have to publish on multi-platform regardless of who buys them. I think one thing we could see is stuff like Jedi Fallen Order from Respawn under the EA umbrella being something more of an exclusive. Maybe that next Star Wars game becomes exclusive to someone. Maybe they go for smaller studios like we saw with Microsoft to kind of dip their toes in with Obsidian and Exile, a number of those other studios. Regardless, John, I think this is where we begin to see a lot of studios, big and small, begin to get snatched up as people try to acquire that IP, try to acquire that content moving into this cloud generation down the road.
And I think I speak for a lot of people when I say, let's hope EA gets acquired by someone. because they're not doing so well, especially in the let's make our gamers happy department. Yeah, we're about to see the release of FIFA 21, and yeah, Joey, it's not sounding good on social media right now. And then on top of it, what was it? I read an article today. EA just released a press statement saying that the winners of England's Champion League, Leeds United, who made it into the Premier League for the first time in 16 years, were hoping to get their stadium in the game. EA said we didn't have time to do it, so we're not doing it. So at launch, Ellen Road for Leeds United will not be in FIFA 21, and Leeds fans are ticked. Leeds, a blue-collar town. You don't want to tick blue-collar people off. Like, they know how to destroy you. So a lot of people are mad that, EA has this exclusive deal with the English Premier League, and yet not all the stadiums are going to be represented. They have an exclusive deal with the Bundesliga as well in Germany, except they lost the rights to Bayern Munich, so they can't have Allianz Arena in the game. It's not as bad as Juventus, which isn't even named in the game. It's Piedmont or whatever, So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people would like to see EA bought. I'm one of them. I think EA could be rejuvenated with a fresh dose of new leadership and a fresh dose of income. Can really help change a bit there in EA. So, yeah, I do see more acquisitions coming in the future for sure.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things too, like with these big developers, EA in particular, Activision, Take-Two being the other ones, they published a multi-platform. Like when you see FIFA, when you see Madden, when you see all these big sports games, you think of them available on Xbox, PlayStation, Stadia, wherever. They're accessible anywhere. Now, I think it's going to stay that way. If I'm a big league, whether it be the English Premier League, to the NFL, to the NBA, I'm going to say, if I'm going to give you the rights to my league, you have to publish it everywhere. We want that increased marketing. We want that increased exposure. We want the ability for our fans to purchase their rights to playing our likeness anywhere on any console. I think it's going to stay that way, to be completely honest. So I think if we see one of these big ones go, it will not be the sports games that necessarily get pulled to one console. I feel like that's almost like a, I can't think of the word, but when someone has too much power in the market, I think that's one of those situations where you're saying, hey, every sports fan has to play on Xbox or on PlayStation or on Amazon's Luna. It doesn't feel like something like that could work successfully. I feel like that would be voted down pretty quickly. So if it comes down to one of those people being bought, I think it's those other games, your Titanfalls, your Respawns, like Jedi Fallen Order, different things like that, BioWare, Anthem. Someone can have Anthem. It's available for free everywhere now. But yeah, it's one of those things that I think has to be very careful if the big boys get bought. But I do see some studios getting picked up sooner than later. And the other one that we haven't really mentioned recently, I'm going to call it the sleeping giant of China, Tencent. Tencent, to my knowledge, has not got involved in cloud gaming. But they have got involved in buying up studios like no other. They bought I think 20 or something last month. They're just making tons and tons of investment in studio content. And they're one of those people that say, hey, we don't care where we publish to. We'll publish everywhere, but we're going to own everything. So they just buying up more and more IP, buying up more and more studios, buying up more and more of those developers within the studios. Eventually, I would not be surprised if we see Tencent jump into cloud gaming. And then they pretty much have a streaming platform that's as big, if not bigger than Twitch, if you count the Chinese audience. So they are a very, very big taker that could jump into this as well for the big five. Last but not least, so we talked about it last week, or we talked earlier this week. All these are running together. The Bethesda thing, there's one thing we didn't mention, and that is the Orion cloud streaming tech. So for those of you who watched E3 in 2019, this was one of the big parts of Bethesda's showcase. They supposedly developed this technology that can run 4K, 60 frames per second, possibly up even higher than that as far as the frames per second goes. Supposedly, if you ask insiders, this is the best cloud streaming tech on the market. That came with the acquisition. So while everyone's looking at the Fallouts and the Dooms and all these big IPs, this is one not to lay to the wayside either, because now that Orion technology could get implemented into xCloud sooner than later, so that could be a big step up for Microsoft. On top of that, they are upgrading their server blades for xCloud to be Series X blades as well. So one other way that we're continuing to see them compete with Amazon, Google, and so on and so forth. Again, still early on in this cloud gaming thing. I think Stadia has been out for a year. xCloud just released last week. Amazon just got announced today, so lots and lots of moves still to be made in this area. But again, guys, these are big things to watch. Cloud streaming could be the future for gaming. Oh, I'm a little winded tonight. Upcoming in Exile. John, they have announced that they'll be hosting an open beta for their new game, Frostpoint VR, starting on September 28th. Players will be able to earn a copy of the game during the beta period by participating in Exiles. That's a tongue twister. Play to own campaign. They're giving away 9 copies in total, 3K per week. I love this idea, John. I think it's really cool to do a multiplayer first-person shooter game in VR in general. But the fact that within the beta, they're not saying, hey, just come try our game. Hey, just give us some testing and some stress testing. You can actually earn a copy of the game with 9,000 of them giving out. I think that's a nice little nod from the developer of In Exile there, as well as another encouragement for gamers to go out there and try this new game.
Paging FOMO. FOMO. Hello. Yeah. This is a smart move. You know, you're going to have people that are already interested in this game, and now you're going to sit here and tell them that, you know, they have a chance of winning a free copy as well. You know, we saw the Valorant hype when it came to stream keys. I think the hype's going to be just as big. You know, 9,000 copies given away for free for essentially beta testing. I think that's smart. It's a great way to make the community really aware and engaged and feel like they have a role in that development of that game as well. I think it's a smart idea, and I think 9,000. I think that's a smart number. You're not giving away too much that's going to affect your bottom line, but it's just enough that people are going to be excited about it and think that they have a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And the game looks cool. I mean, maybe there's some already out there, but I have not heard of a first-person shooter type of game that's actually multiplayer-based within the VR atmosphere. So I like the idea that it's something different, something more unique than at least what I've heard of. I don't have a VR headset myself, but I know some friends that do, and I'm excited to see what they think. I did post the link in chat as well. For those of you who are not on chat and who are listening on the podcast, again, that is Frostpoint VR, starting September 28th from In Exile. Good old Jeff Keighley has given us the date of the Game Awards, John. I know you're marking your calendar. The Game Awards are getting announced and will be happening Thursday, December 10th. They'll be virtually hosted from 3 cities this year, Los Angeles, London, and Tokyo. One thing we saw change up for the Game Awards this past year, so instead of just saying, hey, the winner of Best Picture, the winner of Best Game, the Best Narrative, the Best Music, over and over and over, like we already get with the Oscars and Academy Awards, which are great, don't get me wrong. They do things a little bit differently as of last year. We got new trailers. We got the announcement of the Xbox Series X as a console. We got some new gameplay trailers as well as those cinematic trailers. So a lot of different big announcements, a lot of new game announcements, a lot of new console and hardware announcements, all of that being coupled in between these award nominees. So with that being said, it actually, at least to me, made the Game Awards much, much more interesting to watch this past year.
Yeah, it made putting up with the cheesy jokes almost worth it. Yeah, circle my calendar. We're obligated to watch, but, you know, don't feel like you, the viewer, have to watch. Like, we can give you the TLDR here on LvLUp Live. That's not a problem. Allow us to sacrifice our time, our life, to put up with the cringy jokes that make Joey puns look absolutely fantastic and deserve a Netflix special. Let us suffer through it, and we'll give you the TLDR.
Wow. You heard it here first, folks. So if you want to just see John watch those Game Awards, it is now an option available to you.
Live stream.
A couple other updates in the esports realm. Riot Games, the team behind Valorant, they have shared details about their next step for the game's esports scene. Ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be called First Strike. It is a Riot-operated event with regional competitions and open qualifiers where regional champions will be crowned. So whether you're competing in North America, Europe, Australia, Asia, there will be a regional competition for you with those open qualifiers, resulting in someone being crowned at the very end of it. On top of that, John, we're getting new observer features as well.
It's about time. Observer features is essentially one of the things that Valorant really needed to grow in order for their esports scene to really take off. I'm glad they're doing this. From prior press releases and statements coming out from Riot, it didn't sound like they were looking at structuring a esport league or a competition anytime soon. So it's a welcome development. That First Strike is going to be their first Riot operated event, and it's also a breath of fresh air that new observer mode features are going to be coming out as well, because I feel like that's going to help expand the Valorant scene, not just on a professional level, but also on the semi-amateur and amateur level as well.
Absolutely. So we'll keep an eye out on that one as we get more details in, guys. And last but not least for this week, for esports information, we already talked about them on Monday's episode and gave our predictions. But just to remind you, the play-in groups for League of Legends World Championship starts tomorrow. Again, not the full Worlds event, but a little bit of a taste of it with the play-ins. In Group 1, we have Mad Lions, Team Liquid, Papara, Supermassive, Legacy Esports, and INTS. Over in Group B, we have V3 Esports, PSG Talent, Rainbow 7, Unicorns of Love, and LGD Gaming. Again, guys, the best time of the year for esports, the biggest event ever, every single year for esports, unless you look at Prize Pool, that's the Dota 2's International. But as far as viewership, as far as the potential level of competition in front of that giant viewership, League of Legends World Championship never seems to fail with amazement. You're going to see some new music acts. You're going to see some new plays, some new excitement, some new champions compared to last year's World Championship. Big stuff ahead. And again, that starts tomorrow with the play-ins groups.
Joey, just before we end, you've watched the new Worlds theme song, right?
I have.
Thoughts?
Unfortunately. I was not as impressed as I would have liked to. I mean, when I look at them overall, I think like Worlds Collide, Rise, some of these other big ones that have been like iconic in the past. I don't think the visuals were bad. I think the visuals were pretty good. I thought they were interesting. They told a nice story. The lyrics to me and the song itself, it had some good parts, but I would not probably rate it in my top 5 World songs.
100% agree. I thought the song itself was very underwhelming. The video I thought was fantastic. I would love to have Faker coach me in League of Legends, even if it was just for 5 minutes. I'm completely cool with that. But yeah, the song was very underwhelming. And, you know, I was kind of shocked to see all the League of Legends organizations, not all of them, but a good handful of them, come out and kind of not directly criticize the fans for not liking it. But there were a lot of organizations that came out and they're like, wow, this song is amazing. I can't believe that there's people that don't like this. And like, it's almost like, wow, that feels forced. It feels like you're almost paid to say that because you're in the league and you can't say anything bad. But yeah, I found that was kind of interesting that some organizations decided to take that route and kind of backhand the fans a little bit for, God forbid, having an opinion on a song that's, I'm sorry, overwhelmingly on social media, and yes, I understand it's a cesspool, was negative. You know, it wasn't negative for Rise. It wasn't negative for some of the other songs that were very, very popular for Worlds. So take it as you will. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I thought the video itself was great, but the song, I'm right there with you, Joey. Not good. And something else that is not good, it's the end of the show. It's a bummer, right? Nation, that will do it for the Thursday edition of LvLUp Live. Before you go, head on over to patreon.com/OTN and consider becoming a part of the Overtime Network. In return, you'll get access to exclusive content that nobody else in the world can get unless they are a part of OTN Media. If you haven't already, make sure you follow the show here on Twitch to catch the next episode of LvLUp Live. If you listen to the show on our podcast feed, leave us a review. The podcast is available on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Play. We would love to hear from you. In fact, we love to hear from all of our listeners and viewers so much. We have other ways for you to interact with us and the show. Joey, where else can LvLUp Nation go to hit us up?
I almost jumped the trigger there. LvLUp Nation, head on over to Twitter and find us at LvLUp Live. That is LvLUp Live. In addition to that, you can find our umbrella company, OTN Media, on Twitter and Facebook as well, at OTN Media, and on Instagram, at OTN_Media. Last but not least, find us on Twitch, twitch.tv/OTN Media. We stream LvLUp Mondays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, a number of other shows and fun content throughout the week as well. Again, give us a follow, give us a subscription, twitch.tv/OTN Media.
Yeah, you can also use your Amazon Gaming Prime or whatever they changed the name to now. Free sub to OTN. That'd be freaking amazing. So Nation, make sure you tune in this upcoming Monday, September 28th, as we cover the latest and greatest in gaming and esports news. Do your ears and eyes a favor. Slap that follow and sub button to know when the next episode of LvLUp Live is ready for your listening and visual pleasures. We will catch you all on Monday. Have a great weekend. Remember, be nice to your fellow gamers online. And as always,
LvLUp.